All right, we'd like to welcome everybody to Planning Commission. Today is Thursday, April 11th. It's 6 p.m. and we're going to take roll call after our Pledge of Allegiance. We've asked Nicolette Fike if she would lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Nicolette. Let's do roll call. Start with Commissioner Karn.
Chris Karn.
Sandra Steele.
Brian Chapman.
Kirk Wilkins.
Ken Kilgore.
Troy Cunningham.
And city staff.
Nicolette Fike.
You're on. You're on.
Carol.
Gordon Minor.
David Stroud's there too. Okay. This is a meeting. This is a public meeting, and we have set aside some time for items that are not public or that are not on the agenda. So if you'd like to come forward and state your name and address for the record and keep your comments to about 3 minutes, we'll open public comment right now. Okay, we're going to close public input since we don't have any. And we're going to start right with item number 4. This is a business item. This is a site plan for Markham Dental located at 2114 North Hillcrest Road. Meg Bond is the applicant, and we'll turn the time over to Dave Stroud for the presentation.
Planning Commissioners, I made a correction on this slide here. There's actually an address change, an affidavit signed by the county, that was recorded by the county in October. It changed from 2114 Hillcrest out to actually Redwood Road. So the official address is 2113 North, excuse me, I should say Redwood, I apologize. 2130 North Redwood Road. The location is in the regional commercial land use designation of the general plan with the accompanying regional commercial zone, and the property itself is 1.49 acres. This is contained within a recorded plat. This here is the site plan. It will be the location of a future dental practice. Right now it is one building. There is obviously the potential, as you can see on the site plan, for a second building. Currently then would have 64 parking stalls, access via Cambria Drive and or Hillcrest Road would be the two locations. There will be no access off of Redwood Road. The landscape plan you see here with the accompanying numbers of trees and whatnot requirements, grass, rock and wood mulch. Again, the requirements exceed as far as landscaping goes what's required as far as what they need to put in. This will be then the cross section to show how this is going to be blocked. The parking stalls, the code requires the parking stalls adjacent to roadways be obscured, headlights be obscured, so there's going to be a drop in the elevation. Then there'll be shrubs as well planted on top of that small berm, so that would provide that necessary screening. The elevations you see here, I've got materials up on the counter here in front of you. That'll be a brick and a wood type product. The code requires at least 2 materials, no more than 4, not excluding the windows and doors. It does meet all the requirements as far as percentage. Can't have more than 75% of one material per elevation. It does meet those requirements. These would be the other 2 sides. And some color renderings as well. Just the interior floor plan of the first floor. The lower floor will be mostly crawl space, a little bit of storage, then of course your mechanical HVAC equipment, that sort of thing. Obviously not for any other business other than what's located upstairs. And the lighting plan you see here, we had to give you a correction I sent to you yesterday on at least the pole lights. And so we have the pole light here. It will be black as indicated there on the finish. And then the wall pack lights you see there. Staff recommends approval with the attached findings and conditions. I would actually add, since we had a different light change, I would actually suggest that you add that the photometric plan still be looked at to make sure it still meets the standard for photometric. I don't see a problem with that, but their photometric was based on the previous pole lights that were there, just as a clarification, make sure that meets all current standards. And so that'll be the findings and the conditions. And of course, you have alternate motions to continue or to deny the request.
Thank you, Director Stroud. Is the applicant here? Hi there. If you'd like, you can sit down and make yourself comfortable. Sure, we'll have a little discussion. Could you tell us who you are and your address for the record, please?
Yeah, Meg Bond, 1059 East, 900 South, Salt Lake City, Utah, 84105.
Thank you. Did you want to add anything to the presentation tonight?
Not really. I think Mr. Stroud did a great job. It is for a group of established dentists and orthodontic specialists. They're pediatric dentists and adult orthodontists and oral surgeons. We think it'll bring a lot to this growing city. We're excited to be working on this for them.
Thank you very much. We'll turn the time over to the Planning Commission for discussion since this is a business item. You're on.
Hello.
Hi.
This is an administrative decision for the Planning Commission, so I just want to ask, is the applicant willing to comply with all the conditions in the planning staff and engineers report?
Yes.
Okay. I had one question, I think. So in the architectural standards, there was a question about about awning on the south door, and in the pictures that we had in our packet, it didn't show any awning, which is a requirement of at least a 4-foot extension out. Is that something that you're planning to do?
We'll ensure that all of our architectural designs and completions meet the requirements.
Okay,
So, yeah.
great. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Steele.
Just, well, number one, I think that this group will be surprised when I say I really like the look of your building. I
Thank you,
usually am not
Commissioner.
for modern, but it really looks nice.
Thank you. We do try to kind of strike a balance between traditional and modern. We want to make things that last.
Anyway, there's another condition we'll need to put in. I don't know if anybody else picked it up, but in the fire department's comments, they requested 26-foot drive aisles. And our code, our development code, says 24. And so the staff needs to discuss this with the fire marshal or fire chief and see which one we need to do. And then that needs to come back to, that determination needs to come back to us for future, but not on this. But they will need to discuss that. That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Steele. Yes, we are surprised. Any other comments from the Planning Commission on this one? Okay, there were only two things I saw in there that were can complies. There was a water sewer and there was signs. Do you want to talk about that? You're good.
Just the standard. They haven't physically hooked up yet, and so and that's kind of a standard I use. Can comply. They'll hook up to city services, and then the signage package. They don't know their signage yet, so we'll tell them you need to comply with your sign package when it comes in. So.
All right. Meg, is there something else we can do for you as far as a service are there any questions we can answer for you or help you
Not
out?
at this moment, but I'm sure once we get through the site plan, when we get to building, I'll have plenty. So, not
Okay.
for you, the commission, though, unfortunately. So, thank you.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the proposed site plan of Markham Dental at, is this address?
Yeah, 2113 North Redwood Road.
2113 North Redwood Road in the RC zone with the findings and conditions in the staff packet. In addition, I'd like to add the condition to ensure that the photometric plan meets the city standards using the replaced lighting fixtures. And also that the planning staff confirms with the fire chief whether to use the 24-foot or the 26-foot drive aisle.
We have a motion from Commissioner Kilgore. Do we have a second. A second from Commissioner Karn. Any question on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you,
Any opposed?
commissioners.
You're good to go. Thank you for your
Very
time
much.
tonight.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
This is what happens when I pull up Dropbox.
Okay, we're going to go on to item number 5. This is a public hearing North Shore, rezone on a portion from agriculture to mixed residential and general plan amendment of a portion from institutional and native open space to medium density residential. This is located approximately at 2300 West and Saratoga Road. Crystal Davis is our applicant from D.R. Horton, and we're going to turn the time over to Sarah Carroll for our presentation.
Okay, great. The map on the screen is indicating the two parcels that we're discussing for this rezone and general plan amendment. Both of these abut the North Shore neighborhood plan. So here is the current zoning map and general plan map, and so you'll see those areas outlined. They're asking for the mixed residential zone so that this can be added to the North Shore neighborhood plan, and then we're also proposing that the general plan be amended to medium density residential to be consistent with these proposals. Here's a concept plan for the entire North Shore, which will be your next item on the agenda. And the areas that are in the existing plan are outlined with the dashed red line. So these two areas plus additional areas are being proposed to be added. And then staff does recommend approval with the findings and conditions in the staff report.
Well, thank you very much. Is the applicant here? Hi. You can invite someone else to the table if you wanted to.
Whoever wants to
Or if you
come.
want to be alone, you can tell them to go sit down too.
Wow, your microphones are really, okay.
Would you please introduce yourselves for the record, your names and addresses?
Yes, Chriselle Travis, D.R. Horton, 12351 South Gateway Park Place, Suite D100, Draper, Utah 84020.
Thank you.
Adam Loser, same address. It's our work address, not our home address.
I would give my work address if I were you too. Did you want to add anything to the presentation today?
Not for the rezone, this one's pretty straightforward.
Oh, but you might for the other.
I might for the other,
Well, you
yeah.
can stay right there afterward.
Well, and I don't know if you guys know, but part of the reason for the rezone is with the North Shore neighborhood plan, there's a reimbursement for the right-of-way for the road. We're also trading a parcel of land that is adjacent to the Public Works current facility. It's on the west side. It's owned by SLR Valley View Stake of Zion. So with those combined, that's the parcel that's up above that you saw that Sarah showed. It's about 15 acres, and that's in accordance with our annexation and development agreements for North Shore. So just for clarification.
Well, thank you. This is a public hearing, so we're going to open time to the public if they would like to come forward and give any ideas or concerns about item number 5. The time is yours. Okay, sometimes people get courage over a couple seconds, so we're going to close public comment at this time. And we're going to turn this over to the Planning Commission for comments. It's a very quiet group today.
I was going to say, there's usually always comments.
I know there's somebody who has something to say. Anyone? Hold on. I have one question.
Okay.
Last time we met, I'd asked the question whether you were going to gobble up any other parcels around there. Are these incremental to the last ones, or? I'm just wondering if your project
This
is
is our
getting bigger and bigger, and
You know me, I have an insatiable appetite, but
I know. Do you like knock doors and ask for more land?
no, currently this is all that we've got. My plate is full.
Okay, but these two are new.
2 parcels are in addition, and then there's the Smith-Freeland annexation. I think that's when you ask that question.
Right.
So those parcels are currently still being annexed.
Okay.
They'll go before city council on Tuesday to be
Okay.
completed. So with those 4 owners, then it will be complete. It'll give us 229 acres and about 1,900 homes.
Okay. I think you've answered my question. I'll entertain a motion on item number 5.
I move to forward a positive recommendation to the City Council for the rezone and general plan amendment as outlined in the staff report for approximately 35.01 acres, including parcel 58-036-0057 and a portion of parcel 58-036-0036, with the findings and the conditions that are in our staff report.
We have a motion from Commissioner Steele. Do we have a second?
Second.
There's a second from Commissioner Cunningham. Any question on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Let's move right along to item number 6. This is a public hearing. It's a major amendment to a neighborhood plan for North Shore located approximately 2300 West and Saratoga Road. Same applicant, same presenter. Turn the time over to you, Carol.
Okay, so on this particular map, you can see the areas that are being added. So the two we just discussed, plus the ones that you had discussed at a prior meeting that were proposed for annexation. And then, as the applicant mentioned, the ones that were proposed for annexation, they had the public hearing with the City Council, and it was continued, and it will, it's on the next City Council agenda this coming Tuesday, April 16th. So we're anticipating the annexation would be accepted and then. Here's the lotting plan, which you just saw in the previous application. So it shows the areas that were already approved in the red dashed boundary, and then these additional areas, the ones you just saw with the rezone request, and the ones you've seen previously with the annexation request. Here's the parks and open space programming. It's you've already seen this. There is a new park shown in one of the areas that is, or sorry, there's actually two shown in areas that weren't on here before. And then this lists the amenities for each of those parks. The only thing that changed from what you saw previously is some of the proposed amenities were shuffled around, and then those parks I mentioned were added. And then here is the trails, so all of it, parks, open space, and trails. And then staff is recommending approval with the findings and conditions in the staff report. There is one item I know is going to come up. So on this plan, the light tan color in the upper left corner, which that's actually north. So the northeast corner of the project, that's called Lot 3 in the annexation. It might have been called Parcel C. And what the applicant is asking, so the City Council will determine the final zoning of this, and the reason you're seeing a residential layout there is the applicant would like, so it's briefly summarized in your staff report. What they're asking the City Council is that the council consider the MR zone for that piece, and that they be allowed to market that as commercial for a time period of 2 years, and then after that they be allowed to do residential. Staff is going to recommend regional commercial for Lot 3. If you look at the general plan for the eastern part of the city, that would be a beneficial location for a commercial development. So what's unique about this particular process of annexation is that the zoning gets assigned by the City Council with the annexation. So generally, if we see a rezone, it comes to Planning Commission for recommendation. However, with an annexation, that's not the process. We receive a recommendation for annexation. I know the Planning Commission reviews it, and then the City Council assigns the zoning. So you are seeing the neighborhood plan before the City Council has assigned the zoning for Lot 3. However, you can keep in mind that there would be two options. Either that it would be, well, actually 3 options. So neighborhood commercial for a period of time under the MR zone, because the MR zone allows neighborhood commercial. So if the council were to choose the MR zone, like I mentioned, they would market that for neighborhood commercial for a period of 2 years. That's one proposal, and then the council can zone it however they want. So I'm bringing that up. I just wanted to point out that even though there's sort of this discussion underway regarding the annexation, it's still possible to move this forward and leave that final piece up to the City Council. I know the applicant has a presentation as well, and so I'll turn it over to you guys. Do you want to do yours now, or?
Probably, yes. You want to see mine first?
All right, is that fine if if Chriselle does her presentation now?
That's where we were going
discussion?
with this, so
Okay.
yes.
Second file. See if we can make this work. So we're lovingly calling this the mega plan because it was Shark Week when we came up with these ideas. So this is North Shore, the mega version. This is the map you've already seen. The lighter shades are the pieces that are being added. It is 178.99 acres with lot 3 being developed. And it has 1,760 units. That's not including the 195, which we would be reserving on lot 3. So 1,760 would be the overall neighborhood plan with a 23-acre neighborhood commercial on lot 3. That gives us a density of 9.83. The MR zone allows anywhere from 8 to 12, depending on the things that are being offered up. And as you know, we gave the harbor, and we've got the transit corridor that's coming in, and the potential for a TRAX line. So we feel like the density that we're asking for and that was previously approved, we're still on track with the same densities. We haven't varied from what that previous neighborhood plan granted us. Overall, we have 229 acres. With lot 3 as neighborhood commercial, like I said, 1,760. Without the neighborhood commercial, it's 1,955. And then our gross average density with the harbor parcel included puts us at 7.66. And then our without is 8.5. This is the neighborhood plan you've probably seen in the staff report and in our booklet. This just assigns the different variations and densities. Our transportation corridors have been laid out and reviewed, and we're not adding anything different. There's no new roadway types. They're all the same as what you've seen before. This is our updated phasing, and to our best guess at this point in time. But that gives you a general idea of the 7 phases and how we would come through and construct. This is our open space and parks. Mostly this shows you the trails map. There is one revision that we'd make. So on the north end where you see the church lot, I think it's the left side of your screen, there's a yellow line extending across the back side. That needs to be extended through the development so we're not orphaning that little cluster of, of townhomes there. So on this map, this is the open space map that Sarah showed in her presentation, but the ones with the red lines are the parks that were affected by the change that happened. So when you see the one right in the middle called Anchor Park, it's the largest one on the left. It used to have units in it, and it was our dock park before, our little dog park. But we needed to, once we did more work with the numbers and working with Gordon, we needed a 100-year detention basin. And so that will be our 100-year detention, but it will also still serve as open space. It'll have the theme of the community. We've moved our amphitheater, which was in the South Bay Park. That's the one that's on the right that's highlighted. So we've moved the amphitheater from there up to Anchor Park. There'll be the same community markers, landscape, and I'll have a better graphic of that you'll be able to see everything. And then Dock Park moved across the street and a little bit to the north. And then, as Sarah mentioned, we've added Sandbar Park and Laguna Shores. And I've got this is the Anchor Park that I was just talking about. That is our 100-year detention basin with our anchor marquee along our boulevard. It'll also have a dock. so that you can sit out and dangle your feet when the 100-year flood comes. So, and then our amphitheater, and then we've also got hammocking grottos. This is Laguna Shores. This is our big park for these new areas that have been added. One of the parks that we did propose before was Driftwood Park, but it was just a small little corner park, and we've not been able to keep that whole park, but we'll take the theme of that park and move it here in our Terra Park so that the Driftwood theme will help us tie together. We'll also have a second pool and sport courts and things. And then the final one is Sandbar Park. This one sits between units, and it's more of a quiet family, come roast your marshmallows. There's a fire pit and a pavilion for picnics. You've seen the lotting plan in Sarah's presentation. And then this, just so you know, because this is kind of a living document, we've had a product type change in that highlighted red box. I'll go back so you can see the difference. It's still townhomes. It's just a different product line. We'll now be offering 7 products in townhomes in this project. So that is all that I have.
Well, thank you for your presentation. This is a public hearing, so we're going to open up public comment for item number 6, major amendment to a neighborhood plan for North Shore. Anybody would like to come forward and say any concerns or questions about this item? We invite you to come now. Okay. We will close public input on item number 6, and we will open up this to the Planning Commission for discussion. Commissioner Steele.
I honestly feel like we're putting the cart before the horse. With the annexation still not finalized at the council, and we don't know what they're going to do with Parcel 3 or Parcel C, this will change, depending on what they do, it will change all of your data and your density. And I understood, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but you talked about the density, you were keeping the same density. What are we getting in addition to what you've already given to get that a higher density over 8 in these new areas that are coming in?
So we're preserving an additional corridor for the Pony Express, 180-foot right-of-way. And we are agreeing that for a period of 2 to 3 years, the neighborhood commercial will be granted. So with those 2 gives, we could get to 12, but we're only asking for 8.5 to 9.
Okay. You have no guarantee that you're going to keep the neighborhood commercial. That may be taken out of the neighborhood plan completely, and it be a separate regional commercial, because regional commercial does not go into the mixed residential. Mm-hmm. So if the council goes the direction that some of them sounded like they were at the meeting, then that may be pulled out.
Correct.
And then that's going to affect your density.
We presented calculations for both, with and without that. So there's 1,760 units without that lot 3. Okay. If they put lot 3 in regional commercial, we would have 1,760 units. If we reach a compromise, and it could go neighborhood commercial or regional commercial or whatever it might be, and if it doesn't happen in a 2-year period, then the density would be 1955.
Okay. If I were to give a recommendation to the council, I would recommend that that parcel be taken out of the North Shore neighborhood plan, and that it be separate and zoned regional commercial. I don't know what the council's going to do, and that is where I have a problem. We got the cart before the horse on another issue at Legacy Farms, and it still sticks with me that if we had just waited, things would have been a little different.
Can you remind me what that issue was?
The street, Schoolhouse Road, you wanted it changed from a collector
Right.
to a local.
Mm-hmm.
The school came in, and now there is a tremendous amount of traffic on that. And I don't think there's going to be a possibility of a light there. So I wish that we had waited just a month, 2 months, until the school district had made up their minds. Then we might have kept that as a collector. So again, I am uncomfortable putting the cart before the horse.
Well, and even if it was still even if it was a collector, it wouldn't qualify because of spacing and the power pole that's across the street.
But we wouldn't have houses backing up onto it. So anyway, I feel like that was a case where we rushed. I don't want to do that again. And it's my opinion that we should wait until the council has decided, and then we know what we are voting on. Right now, it's either this or either that, or, it could be this. There's any number of things that we don't know what the council's going to do. And I, for one, just don't think we should be even thinking about deciding tonight.
Before we move on to another comment, Commissioner Steele, if we were to make a decision that would allow them to go forward, I know that we do this in code, we can do this in other ways. If they are going to go one way, maybe we can have certain conditions, and maybe if they go another way, we have different conditions. It looks like they've made the calculations for both of those. Do you have any suggestions in either case if they keep parcel C or 3 with it, or whether they take them and separate them? Do you have any suggestions?
The way that it's shown here, and this is what we're voting on,
Mm-hmm.
it's shown as part of the neighborhood plan, the North Shore neighborhood plan. If the council takes it out, then we have voted on this, not what the council.
Right. So maybe what we can do is we can put conditions in the case that the city council removes it from this, that we have different conditions.
But we really need to see this when it comes back and see what the, see what that is.
Densities are?
Yeah, and see what, it changes the look, and we're voting on a document. Actually, we're voting on a document that has the lotting on it. We don't know what the council's going to do.
Okay.
I know what I hope they will do, but I don't know for sure, and I don't think the staff knows for sure.
Yeah.
Excellent.
One option you have is you can act on what's presented for you. That's what your role is. You have this presented, the slides, your staff report. You make a recommendation on that. The council, as their legislative discretion, can. So I would suggest you can place conditions. You make your recommendation on what's presented to you, because the council can still change what goes to them as well.
I am very uncomfortable in voting on something that has not even been annexed into our city yet. And so if I have to vote tonight, you can guess where it's going to go. If it were to come back with what the council has given us, then I would be in favor. But you're showing things on this plan. Part of the time you've got it lotted, part of the time it's blank. Part of the time in the document it looks like it's a part of the time it looks like it's not. I would rather have a clean document in front of me before I vote on the amendment.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Steele.
One of the options that the council does have is to vote on it and approve it like it is. So it would have flexibility. It could go either way. That's why it's been formatted the way that it is.
And they might not go that way.
Correct, but they might go that way.
So, it's these mights I don't like.
Let's hear what else we have with the Planning Commission, and we may or may not have a positive or a negative recommendation. So, Commissioner Kilgore, I believe you were next.
Okay. Well, actually, I'll just weigh in on the comments made. I'm okay with this. Actually, probably, Commissioner Steele, I don't want to speak for you, but probably your comments are not actually directed towards the applicant, because the applicant simply follows the procedures that we set, that the city sets. It's probably more a comment towards the planning staff in the speed or the rate or at the stage that we're at, because they really don't have that control. They just simply submit, the applicant just simply submits what's requested of them, what's required of them, and follows the process. Having said that, I agree with some of the comments made by staff as well as by the applicant in that we make recommendations based on what is before us, and then the city council then decides on their own, or decides based on all the inputs and everything that they have on whether they approve or not. And so I don't really see that there's much of a difference, even if we know what's possible, only because we have access to what some of the city council members are thinking. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's any different from any other application. And also, I think we actually have a little bit more insight this time, because the annexation, if we had no input in this, the annexation, until annexation, as you say, if the annexation has to happen with zoning, then the city council will simply make that fiat, and we would have had no say. Whereas here, we at least have some input. We have an idea of what's being proposed, what's being proposed. We can make a recommendation as to the zoning requests. Whereas, again, if we didn't have this today, then because of the type of application it is, as Sarah had mentioned, the city council would have simply zoned it as they annexed, and we would have had no say at all. So I feel like we have a little bit more input in the current process. But anyway, that's my opinion. So the questions I'd like to ask, okay, this is actually maybe to the staff. In the proposal summary, it seems like parking for the townhouses will have the standard number of parking spaces as we require. But then in table 1, in the proposal summary, it shows that there are about 5,200 parking spaces for townhomes versus the 3,000 required, so way over what's required. So if the proposal summary says that they're providing the standard number of parking spaces, why does it show to be so over in the table? And I was just wondering why so much more, especially since the applicant is actually considering the possibility of asking for reduced parking in the future. So I'm just wondering, the discrepancy in the two numbers.
Yeah, do you want to answer that?
So we just want to show that we can comply and that we understand that parking is an issue in these kinds of communities. And so we are providing additional parking. We're not required to. Right. We know that it's an issue, so we want to provide this extra parking. The provided parking counts the driveway spaces as well as the garage spaces, and then any surface level parking that's been extra above that. So that's where those numbers and that enormous parking number comes from.
Okay.
So
the enormous number is the correct number, is the number that you're contemplating.
Right, and so if it has a double car garage, then there's 2 parking spaces in the driveway. If it has a single car garage, there's 1 in the garage, 1 in the driveway, and then a quarter somewhere else on the site. Okay.
All right, that clarified for me, what was a discrepancy. So.
Okay.
Is there, also, I guess this is a question to the staff, is there anything so we were given an excerpt of the city council minutes and talked a lot about the commercial rezoning. And I was wondering if there's anything that the Planning Commission should consider in our motion for this application regarding the commercial rezoning issues contained in the draft minutes that were in the packet.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't hurt, so it's just not a requirement with this process.
Okay. In the North Shore Master Utility Plan, there were comments that say that the neighborhood and master utility plans aren't consistent with each other in several areas. So there was like the pipe and culvert sizing. There was ERCs reported in Table 1 of the neighborhood plan versus the ERCs reported in the master utility plan, as well as secondary water demands and including the secondary piping ideas. I guess there were 2 ideas of how the secondary piping could be brought in, and said that it hadn't been consistent, or they're not consistent between the 2 reports. And I was wondering if you know which one you're going to go with, and
So we've updated all those master plans and resubmitted them to the city engineer. He has had a chance to look at them. On the secondary water, we've decided not to repurpose the pipes. It'll be less expensive for us to put in a new pipe. If we get to the pipe first and need to lay in the same location as those 2 existing pipes, we'll work a reimbursement agreement, which will allow us to remove those for the city. And if there's any conflicts there. Then I think as far as the stormwater, there was some differences on box culverts between us and the Pirelli and the Lehigh line that comes down 2300 west. So we've worked all of those, we've resubmitted, we've addressed all the comments that came from Gordon, and we're all on the same page. Gordon can confirm that, but that's my belief.
Okay.
Like that, and that it just refers to the utility master plan, and we had briefly discussed that. But so I think there's several utility specific exhibits, and then the utility master plan is a separate document that engineering has been reviewing. So if those utility exhibits aren't in the neighborhood plan and we just reference the utility master plan, then we don't have to worry about inconsistencies.
But your code requires that they be in the neighborhood plan as
Oh,
well. And so
okay.
we'll just update them so that they are consistent. Like I said, this is a living document, so we'll just make sure that they are the ones that are approved by Gordon.
So, okay, so that, yeah, sorry.
So I don't know that everything is resolved at the moment, but I'm confident that it can be. So that's why I included the comments, the engineering comments in in this in Sarah's staff report, and between my office and the applicant, we'll get those resolved, and I'm confident that we can.
Terrific. Okay. So do you recommend then, Sarah, to add a condition that says update the utility exhibits in the neighborhood plan?
Yeah, that'd be great.
That? Okay. And then that's it for my comments. Oh, yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Kilgore. Commissioner Anderson.
I'm not sure who to direct this toward. I'm just curious about the context where we talked about this residential commercial being 2 or 3 year window to be that. How did we arrive at that?
The time frame was proposed by the applicant, and it's under discussion by the city council, and they'll most likely formalize their decision next week on Tuesday.
So could I ask the applicant why that time frame? What was the thinking or thought behind it?
So the way that the language reads is that it's 2 years from the platting of a lot that could legally be sold. We don't have any intentions at this point in time to plat that lot, so the 2 to 3 years is why it's fluffy. It is 2 years from a recorded plat.
Okay.
So whenever that happens, that would start the window, but we are currently marketing that, and we're not marketing it just to neighborhood commercial. We are marketing it as regional commercial. We're entering a listing agreement, and part of the language that we've proposed to the city asks for transparency and listing so that they know that we are being active and we're not just letting it sit for 2 years. There will be requirements on, the marketing and the discussions. I've been working with David. He's given me a couple of resources that are looking very positive. So we're confident that something can happen there.
That's helpful. I would just add one comment to that, and that is this now with Pioneer Crossing now is this big corridor into our city. This is the new boundary now, of entering into our city. I think that should just be considered and taken into account when you talk about the design and what goes there.
Commissioner Anderson, do you mind if I piggyback on your question?
Please.
Considering the phasing and timing, where's the first phase?
So our first phase is on the south end, the very south square around the curve.
And then second phase?
Second phase moves to where our clubhouse and that open space, so it moves to the north.
Yes,
There's
I'm just trying to make a point.
Yeah.
So you really weren't going to get to that area anyway within the first 2 years.
Right. So 7750 is a road that has been long there, but it technically has a lot of problems, and those have to be worked out before we could even figure out a plat, because the road that they're currently using is on Mr. Smith's property, and UDOT needs to maintain some access. It's very complicated, so there is time involved in this process.
So I was just thinking, 2 or 3 years, you weren't going to get over there anyway.
Right.
Right, so really,
It's
not
also in the floodplain, we need to haul in dirt. That takes us a long time as well. There's lots of things that can be happening.
All right, thanks. Were you done?
all. Thanks.
Okay. Any other comments from the Planning Commission? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that the Planning
Wait.
Commission, sorry.
Hit it.
Okay. I move that the Planning Commission forward a recommendation for approval to the City Council for the North Shore Neighborhood Plan Amendment with the findings and conditions in the staff packet, as well as add a condition to update, request that the applicant updates the utility exhibits from the from the neighborhood plan to match those of the master utility plan.
We have a motion from Commissioner Kilgore. Do we have a second? All your mics are on, so if you want to speak, go ahead. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Carn. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay. Motion passes. Thank you for your time.
Thank you
May
very
I
much.
give an explanation for my nay?
Absolutely.
So it'll go to the council. The reason I have voted in the manner that I did is because we were voting on something that has not been annexed yet, and I'm very uncomfortable with that. Thank you.
It's been brought to my attention that I did not ask if there was a question on the motion. Were there any questions on the motion? No? Okay, it stands. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go on to item number 7. This is a public hearing. It's an amendment to Title 19 Sign Code. It's initiated by our city. I turn the time over to Senior Planner Sarah Carroll for our presentation.
Okay, so what we're doing here is we're adding one word, and it's the red word there. So a couple months ago, we brought forward a change and added off-premise signs under our list of prohibited signs. However, we have been allowing several temporary signs to be off-premise. Examples would be fundraising signs, political signs, developments, that are kind of around the corner signs. And so we just want to change this and add the word permanent. So we do not want off-premise permanent signs. We don't want, Smiths to put their sign at Walmart. But we do want to continue to allow off-premise temporary signs. And so this will formalize that and make it more clear that our temporary signs that were previously allowed can continue to be allowed.
And that was your presentation. Thank you very much. This is a public hearing, so if there's any public comment about item number 7, we invite you to come forward now. Okay, we'll close our public comment for item number 7 and turn it over to the Planning Commission for comments. Chris Karn. Let me get your... Oh, you're ready to make a motion. Any other comments before we go there? Commissioner Steele, I see that you're requesting. Go ahead.
Yes, I have some questions. The off-premise signs that we allow are listed in our code, I think, as development signs.
The temporary signs? Yeah, so they have parameters such as size, number, whether or not they can be on. So we allow temporary signs on vacant property. There's a size limit and a number limit. So the maximum is 96 square feet and a maximum of 3 signs. 96 square feet total for a maximum of 3 signs. There's also real estate signs. So we don't call them out by type. We don't say development sign, real estate sign. We just say temporary sign. And so, yeah, there are other sections of the code that regulate the size, the length of time, and the number.
Okay. The way I read the new laws that we have, and I'm just going to use this as an example because I don't think they've asked for this, but if Chubby's wanted to put up a sign out towards the south end, they could do so, could they
Right.
not?
Yeah.
Okay.
A temporary sign, right, and
temporary.
it would have size limits and timing limits and things like that, right?
Can we do something where there's 2 or 3 things that are not in that, as I remember? There's nothing in there that we have a time limit, and there's a sticker on it. Now that we have a great code enforcement officer, if there was a sticker on there to say when the temporary sign was to go down, be either renewed or be removed, it would make his job easier, and we would have probably a cleaner city. The other thing that has come to my attention, and I don't know if it's come to yours or not, that UDOT has said that any signs along their roads, which Redwood Road would be theirs, the signs have to be either 500 or 600 feet away from their right-of-way. Have you heard anything about that?
I've actually been looking into that. It's been a week or two since I've looked at that. There's some kind of pamphlet, I think it was. But I think, and it's going to be some discussion probably with Kevin as well, but if you think about it, how many state-controlled roads, if they were to enforce, signs 500 feet off any state road, I don't think it makes sense personally. But I don't know if that's how that code is interpreted, but I've been looking at that, and I don't have an answer yet, but I am aware of that provision of UDOT's code.
So if that is something that UDOT wants, then we probably should go back and look at this portion of the code. Am I correct?
Yeah, we're looking at that.
Okay. There's the only thing we need to have a minimum sign, or minimum size for the temporary signs. I would never want it to be construed that we are allowing snipe signs. And if we don't give a minimum size, we might run into that. So I think we ought to have a minimum size. And also, I'd like to see something that they show the city how they are going to anchor any temporary sign to the ground. I have seen the sled signs blow over. And so they really need to do something that anchors them to the ground quite well. And if we do this, then will the code enforcement be able to enforce on those signs that are up that are too close together and too many on one piece of property? And
Yes.
Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Steele. Do we have other comments about signs, about this code change? Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
Based upon the evidence and explanations received today, I move to approve the proposed amendments to section 19.18 as identified by staff with the findings and conditions contained in this staff report.
We have a motion from Commissioner Karn. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a tie. Who wants to take it?
Kilgore.
No, it's waiting.
Commissioner Anderson has the second. Any question on the motion?
Yes.
Commissioner Steele.
Can we put that any temporary signs have a permit with a date or a sticker with a date and the expiration date on the sign?
Is that doable?
That question is to you, Commissioner Karn.
Yeah, I'm asking staff if that works.
I think it's better if we come back with actual language or something like that, and
So
then
we can
have
approve
it.
this as it is and then condition to go back and look at.
That's what I would
Commissioner Steele's-
recommend,
okay.
so that
I'll amend
we
my
can-
first to to approve it with the condition that staff goes back and looks at the suggestions from Commissioner Steele.
We have an amendment
Second.
to the, to the motion and to the second. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay. Do we need a little break or do we need to keep going? Okay, let's keep going. We're going to go into item number 8. This is a public hearing, Riverside Crossing, general plan amendment from community commercial to business park and regional commercial, and a rezone from mixed use to business park, community commercial and regional commercial. That was a mouthful.
That was kind of a mouthful.
Together with a concept plan. This is located at the northeast corner of Pioneer Crossing and Redwood Road. Zach Olson is the applicant, and we'll turn the time over to Planning Director David Stroud for our presentation.
As stated, this is a public hearing. This would be property located at the northeast corner of Redwood Road and Pioneer Crossing. Again, Zach Olson of Thrive Corp is the applicant. The property you see here is a majority of that blue parcel. I couldn't select a part of it, but a good 2/3, 3/4 of that parcel is in this request. This is the more detailed request here. So we've got some general plan land use map changes as well as rezones that accompany that. So if we look first at the blue, that would be a general plan change from community commercial to office. The entire property right now has a land use of community commercial. And then the zone would be from mixed use to business park. Then the pink would be the general plan of community commercial. It already exists, so there's no change to the pink as far as the general plan goes. And then the zone would go from mixed use to community commercial. So the entire property we're looking at right now, the entire parcel is zone mixed use, and the land use is community commercial. And then the red, as you see there, that would then be the general plan change from community commercial to regional commercial, and then a zone from mixed use to regional commercial. This is a basic concept plan. Again, at this stage, that's all we're looking at is conceptual items as far as the concept plan goes. Would be 2 medical buildings. One would be 3-story, and then 1 2-story. We do have elevations here coming up as well. Again, here you go. This would be the elevation of building number 1. This would be the building along Redwood Road. And just kind of there's obviously 3 stories. I gave you just kind of a sample of the tenant space of one of the floors. And here's some 2-dimensional elevations of that same building. And this would be building 2, located further in the property. This would be 2-story. Again, I create a sample of the tenant lease space for one of the floors. Recommended motion is to forward a positive recommendation with the staff findings and conditions. Again, you also have the option to continue or to forward a negative recommendation. Just to go back to the zone. Reason for the different zones, the 3-story building comes in at 50 feet high. The zone for that would allow that would be then the business park zone. The 2-story building does not need to be 50 feet high. It is 40 feet high, so that can exist, as you see there, in the community commercial zone. So that is the nature of why we're having 2 different zones there. And then, of course, being where the location that the property is, regional commercial is very much needed, and because of the traffic count, that sort of thing, that frontage along Pioneer in the corner of Redwood, is very well suited towards the regional commercial designation. In fact, we do have some of that seriously looking at one of those parcels in the regional commercial zone now to locate a new business.
That's your full presentation?
That's it.
Okay, great. Is the applicant here? Or applicants? Hi, would you introduce yourselves and your addresses for the record? Make yourselves comfortable. You're on.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Chaz Johnson. This is Zach Olson. We represent Thrive Development Company, a local company here in Utah. We also represent, as you may know, on this property, there are currently 3 different landowners. We own the back portion. Scott McLaughlin owns the front portion, and a credit union owns that front corner right there. So we've been asked to represent the 3 owners collectively for the subdivision and kind of take the lead as the commercial developers to see this through. Mr. Stroud had given us a great opportunity to present here, and we thank the staff for all their work over the last 18 months or so to get to this point. We represent a hospital here in Utah County that would be locating some of their physicians here in this first building number 1, along with several of the other Utah County-based multi-location, multi-clinic medical providers that would like to come out here and provide medical services to your community. As of right now, Building 2 is completely spoken for, pre-leased 100%, and Building 1 is about 50% pre-leased with those type of users. They're multi-specialty and family practice type providers. And I mentioned that the credit union is looking to go on that front corner, and the other retailers are looking to take that frontage as well. I think one thing to point out why we feel like this is an appropriate use of zoning is we're trying to be very sensitive to the neighborhood to the north of us. It's very close to that commercial corridor of the city. And so by offering this office use there immediately on that north end of our property, that acts more as a buffer to the higher end retail, more dense retail that would be happening there along Pioneer Crossing. So the city in this plan would get the tax base from the higher retail, the revenue from there, but we could protect the neighbors a little bit by adding some more 8 to 5, 8 to 6 type users that are not operating at all hours and providing a little bit of a shield. Zach, he's our project manager on this project, and he has worked the neighborhood. He walked through the neighborhood and collected signatures and discussed the project with the majority of the neighbors to the north of us. And there is a sheet that has been provided to the city showing those members, the neighbors that we've spoken to. As far as I know, there was no negative comment, although there is definitely some concern from that neighborhood, especially with their inability right now to get in and out of the neighborhood on Redwood Road, which is the one access point to Redwood Road. It's created quite a bit of problems from what we understand with access. In coordination with the city staff, we've identified a road that would connect into the city that would be dedicated to the city as a city road that would provide immediate access out onto Pioneer Crossing, which we understand will have a lighted intersection there at Riverside in the near future, which will allow for some relief to the neighbors and their inability to get in and out of their subdivision at this time with the changes that UDOT's made. There are certainly challenges with the site, most specifically because of that continuous flow intersection. Access is extremely limited, which makes it a little bit more challenging to go with a more high density commercial center. So we only have really the one point of access to our development. So again, we feel like this medical use where they don't need the immediately on and off access, it's an appropriate use. So we've tried to be consistent with the neighbors, with the city's needs, and work with what we have with what UDOT needs there to keep traffic moving in and out of the city. I think that we've done an excellent job in coordinating that.
Thank you very much. This is a public hearing, so we're going to open up public comment on item number 8 for Riverside Crossing at this time. If you could give us your name and address for the record.
Yeah, happy to. John Potter. I live at 721 North Braemar Way, just in that neighborhood in Dalmore Meadows. First of all, I want to express my appreciation for working with the neighborhood. The Smiths debacle has just been an absolute disaster for our neighborhood. Can hardly turn left. For the first month or two, there were accidents nearly every week, right? And so the impact of this is very, very, I guess, we're very sensitive to it in our neighborhood. I'm concerned about traffic. I do appreciate the hours and the thought that went into, creating that buffer. I am concerned with traffic. With all of the commercial property there, I don't want my neighborhood to turn into an easy way to turn right
basically, and get onto Redwood headed north. There are no speed bumps. There's nothing to prevent people from doing that. And with the continuous flow interchange, you know, there could be a temptation for people to leave these commercial properties, cut through my neighborhood, literally going past a park and all of our homes so that they can head north on Redwood. So that's my concern with it.
Thank you, John. Any other comments from the public?
Tyler Knapp, 196 East Brookshire Drive. You talked about a stoplight, a traffic light. Where's that? Where is that being proposed? There.
Riverside.
Okay. Yeah. So that my concern is the same as John's. The one of people cutting through the neighborhood to get onto Redwood heading north, especially that light being so close to. I don't know all the details of what's happening at the Pioneer Crossing Redwood intersection, but that light being so close to there, yeah, I fear that people are going to cut through the neighborhood. I mean, there's families, kids that are out in that neighborhood all the time riding bikes around. I think speed bumps would address part of that. So that's my main concern right now with this development. I know this doesn't concern north of this proposal. I guess when that time comes, I'll be back to talk about Riverside Drive and how that ties into Dalmore Meadows. But that's my concern, and I hope that something will be addressed. Speed bumps, maybe some stop signs on that Cooper Drive or in that roundabout or something like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Tyler. Any other comments?
Hi, I'm Ross Towsley. I live at 191 East Brookshire, and my back property will actually be next to the development. And in the conception plan, they had something about a wall being built around the whole area, and I have no information about where the wall is going to be. So I just put my landscaping in, so I'm not sure if that's going to be appropriate for what they're going to put next to me. And also how high that wall will be. So I'm just concerned about that. Also, the traffic in the neighborhood will be on our road, probably won't be increased too much because we'll be off Brookshire. We go east from Brookshire on Brookshire Drive. So anyway, that's my concern of what's going to affect my property in the back, because I'm going to be right next to that.
Thank you. Mr. Towsley, what was your first name?
Ross, ROSS.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments from the public? So I'd like to give the applicant the first stab at responding to some of the concerns. Oh, sorry. There isn't any other public comment? Okay, we'll close public comment now, and we'll turn it over just for you to answer some of these questions in the city.
Yeah, thank you. Obviously, anytime there's any development in the city, there's going to be likely increased traffic, so we just need to be wise about where we're moving traffic and how we're getting it in and out of our development. I think it's pretty unlikely that we get any significant amount of traffic that would go north into the neighborhood out of that subdivision. With there being that continuous flow intersection, it's going to be a lot easier to get onto Redwood Road by going onto Pioneer Crossing through the lighted intersection, especially if you're turning left, and then getting into that continuous flow and moving straight through rather than trying to move through a neighborhood. We definitely don't need that access point. Doesn't help us at all. That was just planned with the city planning to have that connection. We would be open to eliminating it, but I don't think that's what's really in the best interest of everyone with the challenges that they're facing in that neighborhood. In fact, we have over 35 signatures of neighbors who were all in favor of this proposal. Most of the comments came regarding the secondary egress is actually a benefit for the neighborhood.
Okay, so let's make sure that we've got everybody's concerns. We started with John Potter. His concern was traffic, sensitive impact. There's not going to be any access to Redwood Road on the west side of this property, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and can you talk a little bit about the intersection that's going to be right there? Because, for example, coming out of Smith's on the east side, anybody turning right there, they don't know how to do it. They don't know how to turn into the lane and merge left. And so it backs up forever anyway. Would you like to address how that intersection is going to work? Coming, just.
Okay, are you speaking of the intersection, the Smiths intersection? Because that's not shown here, but you're pointing to the screen, but I'm not seeing the.
No, the Smiths one is not there. It's to the west. The Smiths one is to the west and just north of the intersection of Pioneer Crossing and Redwood Road. And when people come out of Smiths there, in the two exits, the one that's just north of Costa Vida and the one that's by the gas station, they don't know how to turn right because they sit there and they block it and they can't turn right into the turn lane and then merge. I'm just wondering, right here at this intersection of Pioneer Crossing, how is that intersection going to look? And
so
how
Pioneer, the intersection of Pioneer Crossing and Redwood Road?
Nope. The one right here on the bottom right-hand side.
Which one's he pointing at, Dave, please?
Riverside?
Riverside and Pioneer Crossing, correct.
Oh, yeah, that's...
How's that intersection?
Oh, did I say Redwood? I apologize.
You did. So
I meant Riverside and Pioneer Crossing.
Then yes.
So that will be signalized and it'll be striped and UDOT will dictate the geometry of all that.
Okay. Yeah, since there's a light there.
That intersection will be a full movement intersection.
How about the entrance into their neighborhood? I mean, one of our planning commissioners here has dealt with issues of drivers going through the neighborhood. How will the city propose to mitigate if they have a lot of traffic going through that neighborhood?
Well, in the short term, traffic in this vicinity is not going to be ideal. In the long term, we're going to have a connection from Dalmore Meadows northward up to Market Street, as well as Riverside Drive. And you know, that's going to make a world of difference. In the short term, if there are issues along Dalmore Drive, we can visit those issues with the city's traffic calming policy.
The what?
The city has a traffic calming policy.
We need a lot of that, especially around this area. Okay.
Now, just by the way, the intersection that's been referenced, the Smiths intersection, there have been complaints about people not knowing where to end up when they make a left-hand turn, go across several lanes of traffic and end up in the median instead of the right lane.
Or in the oncoming traffic.
Yeah. So UDOT has indicated that they're going to be putting dotted lines through that intersection, helping people know where they'll end up in what lanes.
Okay, so one other comment that was made was, can we put in some speed bumps going to the north into the neighborhood?
A speed bump is a traffic calming measure, and so the answer would be the same. We could address issues with the traffic calming policy. So that's all prescribed in the policy. Vertical deflections as speed bumps are not something the city's interested in using for various reasons, emergency response and snow plowing and that sort of thing. But there are measures we can take, and we would follow the city's traffic calming policy to address those.
And one last question, will there be a traffic study?
Yes. Right now, we're at conceptual.
Okay.
Once we get farther along, a traffic study would be required.
Okay, there was another concern by Ross Towsley about the back of his property and the height of the wall and his landscaping. Could you address the wall that's proposed?
Yeah, I guess I would lean on the staff to remind us what's appropriate there. We would just follow the city's standards for that.
Yeah,
wall.
and looking at the map, I believe this is Mr. Towsley's property. There's a cul-de-sac right here. I believe that is his property right there. Right.
That's right.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if it would, and maybe he could clarify for us, was he talking about Riverside Drive or just the wall or slash fence that's going to be on the north side of the property? North, okay. Yeah, you can explain, you can, okay. And you're proposing to put a 6-foot
masonry wall, 6 feet,
and
full
just
privacy.
Yeah, and our code says you can't have two fences next to each other like that, so the applicants will have to work with the neighbors to say we want to put a masonry wall here, and there will be fences there, so they'll have to work with the neighbors to come to an agreement on removing their fence and putting up a masonry wall in place.
Okay, so
that'll be at site plan stage.
I think we've addressed all the questions, but I did want to give an opportunity to the city. Did you see any other concerns or comments that you wanted to make in response to the open?
No, I think they've been covered, mostly traffic issues.
Okay.
I was just going to make one. I don't know if my mic's on.
Your mic is on. Well, you just turned it off, and now it's on.
Turn it.
Wait, don't do it. Don't touch it. Now, hit it.
All right. I was just going to make one comment that, and Gordon, correct me if I'm wrong, but the continuous flow lane will have a dedicated right turn lane, which will help keep the flow of that traffic going much faster and more preferable than cutting through the neighborhood per se. And like the applicant said as well, they're trying to work with the city to create something that provides this neighborhood a second access. And I think that's a very valid point for them to make, that they don't have to do this with their property, but they're doing it to try and be good neighbors and good stewards in the same way that they buffered the property and requested the amendment. I just wanted to add that, you know, this is definitely staff supported, and we really appreciate everything that the applicant has done to try and make accommodations for all the various concerns. We really feel like they're trying to meet a lot of needs that they don't necessarily have to, and developers don't always do. So.
Okay, thank you. We're going to turn the time over. Oh, right here.
Just a slight clarification to David's comment. It's not only a dedicated right, it's a free right. So the right turn, so westbound to northbound, that is a free right. So people will scream around that. So that's a good thing. And then the intersection that they're creating down with Pioneer Crossing is one that the city, in response to Dalmore's concerns, was trying to make that connection to give Dalmore another way in and out. Now, admittedly, with the development here, there will be some increase of traffic through their neighborhood. But on a positive note, now they have another way in and out.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to turn the time over to the Planning Commission. Hopefully we've answered your questions in the public. If we haven't, please reach out to somebody in the city, possibly our planning director, and we'll help you with additional concerns that you have, okay? Commissioner Anderson, and then we're going to go to Commissioner Carn.
Yeah, my comment was that continuous flow intersection, which but it was answered by Gordon here, that it would be an open right, continuous, anyway. And I guess that was my question, and maybe it's not even for the applicant, it's for the residents themselves, because I sympathize with them when they say, you know, it's going to send people into the neighborhood, and also it's a pain getting in and out of that neighborhood. So if you had to choose to keep it blocked off and continue with only one way in and out, or not, which would you prefer? And I'm sure it's a split. It's not a clear-cut answer there, but that was my comment, was this continuous flow intersection does have that right lane. And people coming south on Redwood, turning left onto Pioneer Crossing to go east, that line is never backed up. That's never a long line to get through that light. So I don't see people coming south down Redwood, cutting through your neighborhood to get onto Pioneer Crossing. That certainly would not be fast. But people coming down Pioneer Crossing to go north on Redwood, I don't know that they would go through. I don't know that cutting through would be faster once this continuous flow intersection is completed. And that would be done first.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Anderson. We're going to go with Commissioner Karn and then Commissioner Steele.
Okay, so.
Wait, now we go.
All right. So first I'll use the opportunity, because I've got the mic, to say I really wish we could make no left turns out of Smith's on that north exit. That's a terrible intersection. The people who live in Dalmore Meadow pay the price. I've watched the suicide runs coming out of there. People turning north on Redwood out of Smith's. That should be no left turn. I don't know why it's still allowed. People have the option to go north by leaving the Smith's property on Pioneer Crossing and coming across Market Street, and that's what they should do until the rest of that property is developed and they can go to Market Street. That's actions that have happened and waiting to happen. Okay, that's my soapbox on that. I absolutely think this will drive traffic through this neighborhood. How much traffic, I have no way of knowing, but people who live north, who might work in those medical buildings, will leave that way because they avoid the Pioneer Crossing intersection, no matter if there's a continuous flow or not. It's a quick jaunt, and you turn on Dalmore Boulevard, whatever that road is, and they're going to head north on Redwood. So there will be increased traffic through that neighborhood. Now, I think that the benefit to the residents of being able to go east on Pioneer in a signalized intersection is a great benefit. So I do see a lot of benefit to that. That could outweigh some of the traffic. Some, again, I don't know, but the traffic that will head into that neighborhood. I do have a question for Gordon. If you can give us an update on the timing. I know that it's with Army Corps and everybody else. Is there a timing on Riverside Drive continuing north on the backside of Dalmore and roads going all the way to Market Street from Dalmore?
I don't have an update on that timing. It was the Army Corps permitting was going to take a year from whenever we were talking about it then.
Okay. Who's working on that?
From the staff?
Yeah.
Jeremy and I.
Okay. So applications are with the Army Corps and it's in their action right now?
Yeah.
Okay. I know how fun they are and quick they are, so it takes some time.
And it's it's affected by weather because they look at vegetation and so forth.
Okay. So I really think this is a huge beneficial project to the city. I think it's a great location for it. I think we really need to, and even I would love to see a condition in here that the council, if they move to approve it, take proactive steps or direct staff to take proactive steps to investigate traffic calming measures before maybe they're warranted, if that's possible. Because I do think that the people of this neighborhood, particularly in our city, have paid a price for development around them. And that's all I've got.
Well, the only thing I will say about traffic, painted or barely raised pork shops are not working. you see them violated all the time. And that would help a little bit. And I saw an accident last week at that intersection. So I have more questions. Do you intend to have physical therapy offices within those buildings?
Yes, ma'am. In building number 1, there's a physical therapy group.
Okay, do you know that you're going to have more disabled parking?
I think we have considered that. It's part of the code, I believe.
Okay, just want to make sure because you have to have, I think, 20% of the more for that area.
Yeah, we'll definitely follow the code on that specifically.
And your disabled access aisles show, I think, in the right spot on the site plan, but it's fuzzy on your floor plans. And I realize this is concept only, just I'm a stickler for that. Is each tenant space accessible by the elevator?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You need an accessible pathway from the buildings to the public streets. And then you need to connect the buildings with accessible paths. This, again, is going to be, the fire chief has asked for 26-foot drive aisles. Our development code asks for 24, and we have directed staff to check with the fire chief to see which is right. It would be nice to know at this point rather than later. And I just have a note here. Before you submit your final plans, please read Chapter 11 of our code for lighting. I think there's some things in there that you'll want to read. And welcome. We're glad to have you here. And good luck.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we're going to go to Commissioner Chapman and then Commissioner Cunningham.
Okay, I'm not going to repeat a lot that's been said. I will say that Dash Cam Guy is a legend. And I always enjoy seeing his videos as he's trying to turn into your neighborhood and somebody's turning left into a left turn lane from Smith's. So I think it goes without saying that it's a problem intersection, and I think all of our hearts go out to Delmore Meadows for the abuse that you guys have had to endure. Because this is in the concept phase, I think it's hard for me, because I'm very sensitive to the traffic issue, and I'm very sensitive to cut through traffic, having experienced that in my own neighborhood. I think when it gets later down the road and the traffic study gets done and the traffic calming issues can, hopefully, the traffic study shows that traffic calming is needed and they look at the cars and do those whole models. It's kind of hard to say conceptually right now how it's going to affect it or how it's not until that study's been done. But it is something I'm very sensitive and I'm keenly looking forward to when this gets further down the road.
No pun intended.
Yeah. And then I think the whole planning commission, I'm speaking for them or maybe just myself, but we appreciate you being here and voicing your concerns as citizens. And we're one body who makes recommendations to the city council. And so you can always reach out to your city council and voice your concerns with them as well. And on the flip side, it sounds like the developer is trying to do an admirable job at working with the residents, and we urge you to continue to do that. This moves into final phasings and things like that. That's it. And thank you for bringing some office, some actual jobs locations in the city. It's much needed.
Commissioner Cunningham.
Yeah, my question is for the planning director, David Stroud. I was wondering if you could, sometimes we've put up a map, an overview of the area that shows where things are going to be. Do you have that we could put this? Because I would really like to see where Riverside Drive is going to go and to the east of the Delmore Meadows area and how what that would look like.
You're testing me if we have.
So that would be just the city map.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go to
just the city map with the
not,
transportation master plan turned on.
I'm not sure if this is going to be one that has all the layers or not. Yeah, you're supposed to be able to click out of it too, and it's not doing it. That's right. Did everybody get that password there?
Yes, I got it.
Good.
Thank you.
Good. Lots of dots.
You have an extra O.
Ah. Now let's try the password again. Oh, there we go.
So Riverside Drive already exists to the south.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm
It's
just
gonna go
wanted
north.
to see what it looked like, because we can't really see in the map that we have. I wanted to see what it looked like. So even with this, we can get a little bit better picture of where it could go.
Looks like,
Riverside would go to the east there. Now click on
Yeah.
transportation again.
yeah, as it goes north, it could bypass their whole neighborhood if they went straight.
Yeah, there's no, how would it
Now zoom out.
Yeah, that's Riverside Drive going north.
That concept line is a little further east than what.
So it's a little further east than it will be.
Yeah, because obviously it's not going to go through these existing homes up there, but yeah. You get the idea of where the placement of the road alignment.
So there really isn't a tie-in into Delmore Meadows for that then? Or is it something future?
So there would be, there's, right there where David is indicating, there will be a connection right there. And then if the property develops north of Delmore Meadows, not if, but when, can you point up there, David? And see, there's a street coming out of Dalmore on the north side. When that property on the north side of Dalmore develops, we'll also, make that connection northward.
Up to Market Street?
Up to Market Street. So in the long term, there are solutions. In the short term, it's not ideal.
The other thing I had was I'm glad that we have a cushion between the regional commercial and the neighborhood, and I like that we're bringing in more regional commercial. So I'm real happy with this. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Cunningham. Any other comments from the Planning Commission on this one? Okay. We already did public comment. I'll entertain a motion. Yeah.
David, at what point does the traffic study actually is done? Or Gordon, when is the traffic study actually done? When this is, if this is approved and then they go to final, like they're...
Well, being as this is a commercial subdivision, it's not going to come until site plan.
Okay.
Because in commercial subdivisions, we don't know the use. Now, when this subdivision comes along, there's a possibility we could, based on general uses, we could require something, but we'll have to look at that. Generally, those traffic studies are deferred until the uses are known for sure.
And then once that comes back, you can put conditions on, depending on the outcome of that traffic study, for calming in the neighborhood and whatever that model shows. Is that how that works?
Well, the council can put those conditions on.
Sure. Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
These are all city streets, correct, in Delmore? No, that's not private streets up there?
Delmore's are city streets. Okay. And in this development, the streets you see would be city streets. with the exception of the street west of the Knuckle.
West of the Knuckle. Oh, yeah, okay. Adjacent to the buildings.
Can you point at that Knuckle, Dave?
Yeah. It's
All that's private.
private parking area, right? And
Well, that's
it's a road,
essentially a private street.
access to the parking of all those
Yeah,
parcels.
but
Yeah.
it's a street.
Okay, but that'll be private over there.
Yeah.
Master developer will maintain that. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to forward to the City Council a positive recommendation regarding the Riverside Crossing General Plan, Land Use Map Amendment, and Rezone generally at Pioneer Crossing and Redwood Road as outlined in Exhibit 1 with the findings and conditions in the staff report dated April 4th, 2019.
We have a motion from Commissioner Kilgore. Do we have a second?
I second.
Second from Commissioner Steele. Any question on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you very much.
Okay, is everybody had a chance to look at the minutes for March 14th, 2019? If so,
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the minutes of March 14, 2019.
we have a motion.
Correction.
Wait,
And
let's do that when we have a question. So first of all, we have a motion.
it has been. In other words, okay, whatever.
We'll get there.
Okay.
Do we have a second? We have a second. Oh, let's put you on. You want to turn these guys on?
I'll get it.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any question on the motion?
I do.
Commissioner
But you
Carmen.
go ahead first.
Okay, I contacted Nicolette. In there, it has that I talked about accessory buildings, and it was accessory dwelling units. And I went back and listened to the YouTube, and it was
ADUs?
ADUs.
Okay, you got that, Nicolette? Commissioner Carn?
Yes, have we been contacted by Camp Williams on the field trip?
They haven't contacted me, so.
Well, he told us he was going to do that.
They do let people go.
I know, he's going to get us special access out there.
I have been on one of those, and it's quite interesting.
Any other questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Reports of action.
Do you want to go through them? How do you want to?
Oh, the time is yours.
Well, these are so Sheila asked if she
Oh, you already got them typed
I
up?
got them printed out and everything.
Sweet.
You just want to?
Let's look at them.
Review them?
Yep. Just review what you have typed up. Usually that's what we're used to. You just scroll through it, give us an overview. Hold on, let me make sure you're speaking up. There you go.
Microphone here. The North Shore General Plan Amendment, staff presentation, there was no public comment. Commissioner Wilkins asked about, will you take in any other parcels? No. At this time, Smith and Freeland annexation, though, is on the City Council agenda. That was it as far as commissioner comments on that. And the recommendation is of approval, 7-0. All voted aye.
Okay, so what's the title of that report of action?
That is North Shore Rezone and General Plan Amendment.
I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to what? What is the motion?
What you just said.
Approve the
What he just-
reports of action.
Whoever just said it.
The motion should include what we're moving.
But he did. It was the.
Did you want to repeat that real quick?
The North Shore General Plan and Rezone Amendment.
Thank you.
So moved.
Seconded?
Second that, yeah.
Any question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, here we have the North Shore Neighborhood Plan Major Amendment. No concerns raised by the public. Commissioner Wilkins, you had presented a comment to Commissioner Steele. Conditions, depending on which way they go, you're discussing, do you want to approve it with conditions, forward with conditions? And what is the, you asked about what is the first phase, and they suggest, they indicate the south end. Commissioner Anderson, you were asking about the residential commercial lot and the 2-year window. What was the origination of that? The applicants stated they will be marketed as regional commercial. And you made a comment about it's the entrance to the city, and show that that should be considered when deciding what use goes on the property. Commissioner Carr, no comments. Commissioner Cunningham, no comments. Commissioner Kilgore, you are okay with the request. The applicants have submitted what is requested of the staff. PC makes recommendations of what is presented before them. You said there's more insight because of the annexation. We'll have a zoning designation. You questioned the summary for the parking for the townhouses. We'll have a standard requirement, but table 1 has 5,200. When 3,000 is required, the applicant explained the need that type of use as parking. It's better to have more parking for that type of use. Is there any PC consideration regarding commercial rezone request? In the North Shore Master Utility Plan, plans are not consistent with each other. The applicant responded, master plans have been updated and submitted to the city engineer. And Commissioner Steele stated we are putting the cart before the horse since the annexation is not finalized. Data will change and density could change depending on council action. What is the city getting with the higher density in new areas? The applicant stated preserving Pony Express corridor and preserving future commercial for 2 years, but there is no guarantee, as stated from Commissioner Steele, no guarantee of commercial in the plan. The applicant stated calcs presented with and without Lot 3 commercial or residential. They gave the densities for that. Would recommend parcel taken out of neighborhood plan and separate and zoned regional commercial by itself. You brought up the issues with the Legacy Farms and Schoolhouse Road change. Again, you mentioned you're putting the cart before the horse. You would rather have a clean document before voting. So that was a positive recommendation from Commissioner Kilgore, seconded by Commissioner Karn. The vote was 6-1 on the North Shore Neighborhood Plan Major Amendment.
Okay, so it was the title again, the report of
North Shore
action?
Neighborhood Plan Major Amendment.
This time, let's say what our movement is, whether we're approving or we're not approving.
I move to approve the North Shore, Dave, help me,
Neighborhood Plan.
North Shore Neighborhood Plan Major Amendment, reports of action.
Motion, Commissioner Karn.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Kilgore. Any question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Any other reports of action?
Then the last one is the sign code amendment. There was no comment from the public. There was a few comments from Commissioner Steele. You asked about off-premise signs as they're listed in the code. Are they development signs? Brought up the UDOT regulations regarding placement from the right-of-way with the direction from city. We'll look at that, to the city to look at that. You would like to see minimum size and anchoring requirements as needed. And you brought up that code enforcement can regulate the sign numbers. Number of signs on a parcel. And the recommendation was positive from Commissioner Karn, with the second from Commissioner Anderson, with a vote of 7-0 on to the City Council.
Can you repeat the title of the?
That is the sign code amendment.
I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the sign code amendment, reports of action.
We have a motion from Commissioner Kilgore. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Anderson. Any question on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Discussion of City Code Title 19.03. I'm going to give us a 2-minute break. So there you go. We'll be back.
I wanted to say, wash your hands. A 2-minute break, wash your hands.